She's looking like the independent woman, motivated to give it no rest. The night
Starting the Hangout on Air is live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Source Material. We are here this evening to discuss an entry into this isn't a theme week for the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, but that we're kind of tying things in with the recent DC. Ronnie, help me out. DC is an extended cinematic planetary universe or something like that. I can't remember what it's called.
Yes.
All right.
I don't know.
Mark Radulich, you know better. What is it?
It's simply the DC extended universe.
Extended. Now, see, I don't understand why it's extended. What are we extending? Someone want to explain that to me?
We're extending the universe out of Man of Steel. It should have never been extended in the first place.
We are extending things that should not be extended, but DC continues to do it. Warner Brothers. All right. Well, hey, we're going to celebrate that by discussing a book. A Wonder Woman book, which, hey, raise your hands if you're Jesse Starcher and you haven't read but like maybe a handful, if anything, that involved Wonder Woman. I'm Jesse Starcher. I'm raising my hand. Wonder Woman is a character. Clearly, she is extremely popular, but
She is a character.
She is a character. And a Wonder Woman, she's a character. But this is a character that I've not really dove into. The last thing I can remember reading that involved Wonder Woman, I believe, was either the prequel or the at least the precedings to 52, where she broke, oh man, I can't even remember his name, but everybody out there, it's a DC fans yelling at me right now. She broke this guy's neck live on TV. And
yeah, man, I had it until you said something.
Is it Maxwell Lord?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's what I thought. So that's the last thing I read. And seriously, that was probably before Caleb was born when I read that. So 2010. I've never sat down and read a solo Wonder Woman story. But here's Mark Radulich to tell us, by the way, my introduction to you guys is, hey, how you guys doing? Ronnie Adams, you doing all right?
Doing great. Doing
all right.
great.
Mark Radulich, you okay?
I'm just Ducky.
Ducky he is. Mark, let's talk about this book we're discussing tonight, how we came about it. This is, get your shot glasses ready, because I have a feeling it might be the same old here. And we don't get samey on this network, but we damn near come close to it. But no, Mark, we were talking about trying to find a Wonder Woman book, and you shot a few our way. This is Wonder Woman. Here we go. I'm pronouncing it this way, and it shall be this way for the rest of the night. Wonder Woman Hiketeia. All right? Hiketeia. So that's just for me. You guys pronounce it whatever you want. I know Mark Radulich has got a ham sandwich up his sleeve and take a hike or whatever. But Mark, tell us how we came to this book, my friend.
I was doing some Google searches for like top 10 Wonder Woman stories, and this one kept coming up. It's actually an out-of-print graphic novel. Now the only way to get it is through the Wonder Woman Greg Rucka collection, Volume 1. So it's like Wonder Woman 195 through 205 and the Hiketeia. And I was interested in it because, you know, it featured Batman, and not that we couldn't do a story where Wonder Woman acted independently, but I thought, you know, you don't necessarily ever see Wonder Woman and Batman as adversaries. So yeah. I thought the concept of the story, which, you know, you're going to do a synopsis in a moment, but I thought the concept of the story was an interesting one, and one that was worth exploring, you know, given that this is not Wonder Woman week. We don't have enough content for it to be Wonder Woman week. But, but you know, we do have the new Wonder Woman movie coming out, and I wanted to look at a book that really focused on Wonder Woman. And, you know, Batman is more of an antagonist in this one than he is a protagonist. So I'll say the story is so short, I don't even know if I can call him that either, but we'll get there in a moment. In any case, it came highly suggested on many people's lists, so we figured we'd check it out.
Yeah, Greg Rucka, Ronnie Adams, ring any bells? I've heard the name a couple times, but I can't associate him with anything. This guy popular in your world?
Off the top of my head, I can't really, I'm like you, I can't really associate him, but I've heard the name.
Okay. I'm looking at a few things here. This guy, he's had his hand in Batman, Bruce Wayne Murderer, Bruce Wayne Fugitive, Batman, The Death and the Maidens. You know, he's had his fingers in a lot of DC properties, specifically Batman. But from what I understand, he had a pretty good run on Wonder Woman shortly after this story. Now, this story took place in 2002, and he took over Wonder Woman for 3 years with issue 195 in 2003. This is kind of like his entry, and this is probably what popularized him as a figure and somebody to go, okay, well, hey, let's give him the reins to Wonder Woman and see what he can do. So here we have Wonder Woman Hiketeia, which, okay, at first I was like, I have no idea what the heck a Hiketeia is. And if you type that in to Google, I typed in the definition of Hiketeia, and it brings you up the definition first. And then the second entry is actually a reference to the Wonder Woman book. And from there on out, it's pretty much Wonder Woman. So this is something that if you've never heard of what a Hiketeia is or the ritual of Hiketeia, don't be like, well, you're missing out on something here. That's not the case. I don't think a whole lot of the world has ever heard of anything like this, or at least I never have until I saw this book. What we're going to do is I'm just going to try and do my best to briefly synopsis. This will be a quick episode, folks. We're going to give you a synopsis first and then our thoughts second. Wonder Woman Hiketeia. At the beginning of the book, we learn of what the ritual/law of Hiketeia is. Okay? I'm going to give you an idea of what that is. It's good that they did a nice job of summarizing within the first 4 pages of what in the world it means. It helps you, especially being able, not only do comics help you out when it comes to word learning, but when they use pictures to show you what's going on, hey, that helps out all the more better. But it's a Greek ritual/law. If someone comes to you or you go to someone and offer yourself as a servant in exchange for their protection, you're invoking what they call Hiketeia. You're saying, look, I'm pretty much going to be your slave as long as you can protect me. So you're I assume either down on your luck. They show in this book like some guys are chasing after somebody, and he immediately runs over to somebody that looks like they're either of noble personage or something like that, and they get down on their knees and they plead and invoke Hiketeia and request protection. When you do this, it is often never refused. So in other words, the person that you're going to, they are not going to refuse you, as it is thought very wrong to deny someone Hiketeia, as it is one of the most humble of rituals to pursue. As you are almost making yourself a slave to that person, you are begging for protection. The ritual also provides an understanding that this servitude cannot be abused. You dare not mistreat the supplicant, that's the person that's coming and asking for protection, as the Furies, represented by 3 very scary-looking women, older than Princess Diana herself, that have snakes for hair, very kind of Medusa-like, and vampire teeth. They may appear and ravage you for abusing this ritual if you do such a thing. All right, so enter Danielle Wellies, a woman who, when we first see her, is being attacked by some thug. She is, however, able to turn the tables and kill her attacker. Soon after she does this, the Batman appears, and we learn that Danielle has actually murdered others. In his attempt to capture her, it is evident that she may not be a cold-blooded murderer after all, but that she may have her reasons for what has gone on. She is very lucky, and in a freak accident that caused her to fall off a bridge into some water, she escapes the Batman. I assume it's a day or so later. I can't remember if they spell it out in the book, but Danielle gathers the courage to approach a hero that she has idolized for years, Wonder Woman. When Danielle approaches, she bends to her knees and invokes Hiketeia in order to gain her protection, and Diana accepts. We are then treated to Diana making sure that Hiketeia is followed by finding jobs and odds and ends for Danielle to do, as she just kind of brings her on as her assistant to help her out, as they are living in the Themyscira embassy in New York. During this time, Wonder Woman is troubled by the 3 Furies that have seemed to have followed Danielle. So here's these Furies again, these ancient demon-like women who only right now Wonder Woman can see. And she knows that when she sees them, it doesn't bode so well. Also during this time, Danielle is she's not reveling in the protection of Diana. See, Danielle understands what she has done wrong, and she has only turned to Wonder Woman as she felt it was her last resort. However, she has not exactly filled Diana in on the things that brought her to her. And Diana knows there may be some reasons or a lot of reasons as to why she's asking for protection. Wonder Woman's not asking her to reveal them. Now, weeks pass, and of course, inevitably, the Batman always finds his prey. Confronting Wonder Woman, he explains that what Danielle has done, and that she needs to return to Gotham to face justice. However, bound by Hiketeia, Diana refuses. She asks for more time to resolve this, and Batman, he's not hearing it. As he tries to move past her, actually, I should correct myself. He does not actually enter in to the embassy. He is getting this boomerang attached, or batarang, excuse me. I gotta use the right nomenclature. He gets this batarang attached with a string and is about ready to throw it and rope Danielle and bring her out of the embassy. I didn't realize that until I read it a second time. But as he's getting ready to do this, he's punched so hard he's sent out the second story of this bill. I mean, it's a 2-page spread, and Wonder Woman has decked Batman, and he has gone flying off of the balcony. Speechless, Batman leaves. I think he knows he's a little outclassed. He's a little outgunned and a little outclassed here. Now, watching all of this transpire, Danielle feels it is necessary, as hard as it is to do, to tell Wonder Woman what happened and what brought her there. So we then learn the story of Danielle's sister, Melody, who came to New York and was processed into the sex trade. It's not like, Melody came looking for this. Of course, the way that this works, this wasn't by choice. They started out, she got involved with some very bad people. When it turned out at first making some money posing for a photographer, then it leads to her getting beaten, humiliated, raped, and finally Melody was made a heroin addict and a few months later died of an overdose. Danielle then went to Gotham to avenge her sister and did so. I think at one point Batman told her, or Batman, I think, listed off like 3 guys that she had killed, so that she, I guess, took vengeance upon. Educating herself in the ways of the Greeks, because she looked up to Wonder Woman. You got to understand this. She looked up to her, so she started to educate herself in the lifestyle that Diana lived. And Danielle convinced herself that the ones who did this had to answer. They had to face justice. And that's why she went to Gotham, because that was the law in her eyes. And Diana, when she is told this, she identifies with Danielle and she understands, but she also explains that Greek justice is not the way things are done 3,000 years later. Now, Danielle leaves after this heart-to-heart. Danielle actually leaves in the middle of the night. She's still upset. Wonder Woman wakes up. Of course, it's the 3 Furies that let her know that she's left. And they're like, hey, you better give chase. What's going to happen here? Now, the 3 Furies' role in all this is kind of shady. It's like Diana doesn't trust them at all. Wonder Woman has no trust for these guys at all. But and it's kind of like they're there to egg her on. She wakes up, she gives chase. And she's able to find where Danielle's at. And guess who else is there? None other than the Batman. Danielle continues to evade Batman as he pleads with her to come back with him. He's saying, look, you can come back with me. Face justice. Don't run anymore. And as she corners herself out, backs herself up onto an elevated concrete platform above these rocky banks of the sea. Wonder Woman comes to the rescue. And of course, we get Batman and Wonder Woman fighting. Batman, of course, fighting for his sense of law and justice, and Wonder Woman bound by her ancient Greek law of Hiketeia, and they are now facing each other. And then we have right here a great representation of what we were when it comes to justice and law versus what we've become when these two fight. That's kind of what I feel that they were representing. Wonder Woman is obviously, again, she outguns Batman easily. She overpowers him, and that's where we get the cover of this book, which is, I think she has her foot on Batman's head, which is just it's a great looking.
Yeah. That's a good cover.
It's a good cover. So we got them battling here. We got Batman. We've got Wonder Woman. They're fighting. Of course, Wonder Woman's got the upper hand. And then all of a sudden, Batman tries to invoke Hiketeia. He then supplicates himself, but Wonder Woman refuses him. Danielle, this poor girl, realizing that these two heroes / friends are now deadlocked until one of them fails or falls. They're going to continue to battle to the end because both of them have a strong sense of justice here and, respect for the law. She decides that the only way out of this is to jump from the platform to her death. Wonder Woman jumps down after her, but is of course unable to catch her before she hits the rocks below and faces her end. But Wonder Woman makes it down there, and as she holds Danielle's near lifeless body, this girl that she swore to protect, Danielle then releases Wonder Woman from Hiketeia. That's the only way that you can get out of it, is if the supplicant releases you from that duty. And that's where we leave the book. We leave the book with Wonder Woman days later still clearly upset about what had transpired. And that's it. That's Wonder Woman Hiketeia. It's a short book. Let's go ahead. I'm going to turn it over to you, Mark. I went through, I gave however many minute synopsis here. What were your thoughts, dude, when you read this? Did you read it once, twice, or just did you breeze through it? How it go for you?
I read it once, and I was surprised, and I feel like the end came rather abruptly. And I thought, like, oh, Jesus Christ, did I not get the whole book? That's it.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting story, but like I said, it just as soon as it gets going, it ends. And it ends really tragically with this poor girl throwing herself up, throwing herself to her doom. And I thought the stuff with Batman at the end, suffocating himself, and I was like, okay, well, that's typical Batman, like, well, if I can't fight you physically, I will come up with another way to defeat you.
Nah, he uses his mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But again, like there was nothing else to the story besides that. So they build up to this confrontation. They have the confrontation. She kills herself. He suffocates himself to Wonder Woman, and then the book ends.
Let's just dive into Mark Radlich's world here. Anybody who's listened to this podcast before, or any other podcast on the Radlich and Broadcasting Network, knows that you have to deal with some shady characters throughout your regular day life. And I know how much you just love to. I mean, I don't want to drag it out of you, but this tragic story of this girl who, I guess I should say her sister. Is that something that you have had to see in the past?
Yeah, sure, all the time. I remember when I first came to Florida, I was working in a youth program, and I remember this one girl was telling me that her and her mom used to shoot heroin together, and and she was a teenager when she was telling me she shooting heroin when she was like 8, 9, or 10.
Wow.
Every woman I talked to at the jail has been molested, like all of them.
Unfortunately, that path is bestowed upon people when something traumatic like that happens. Now we have this girl's sister who decides to take vengeance upon, these people that have done this. That's got to be more of a rare case. You don't see that very often at all, I would say, Mark, right?
Yeah, that's not happening. If you want to know what I see happening, I see a lot of. If we're just talking about the women, it's like they're all molested. They're all, they've all been molested by some family member or raped or whatever, beaten. There's a lot of. I deal with a lot of physical abuse, women that are involved in like, domestic violence and whatever. Do I deal with any that like murdered their spouse? No,
nothing like it.
I don't deal with too many women murderers. The murderers that I deal with are usually the guys, and in a lot of cases, it's sort of slightly off topic. They've completely fucking snapped.
Really?
Yeah. I deal with a lot of guys where they just lose all sense of like reality from them. It's like a piece of the film footage is missing, and they just go blank and they do something horrible, and then they come out of it and they're just, what I do.
Ronnie, can you identify at all with Danielle's motivations here to go take out these killers?
Oh my gosh! If something happened to my sister, I have a sister. If something like that happened to her, I would have a hard time not seeking vengeance.
Yeah.
Shoot, I've bulled up on people just for saying something cross to her. And I'm not by any means a fighter or a tough guy, and I don't view myself as that. But that's family.
Yeah.
And so I love my sister, and I would do anything in the world to protect her, and I would do anything to if somebody hurt her. Let me put it this way: you hurt my family, I'm hurting you.
I hear you.
And I believe that wholeheartedly. And to me, it would be very, very hard not to take vengeance on somebody who had hurt my sister. It's a tough thing to say, but it's just, that's just the world I live in. That's my family. You hurt them, I'm hurting you.
The interesting juxtaposition here, clearly, there's quite a few things going on in this book. One of which is, I think, the theme of law and justice now versus law and justice, from Wonder Woman's age or the Greek age, I guess you would say. Clearly, I think Batman represents law and justice now. His way of, we've got to bring you in, we got to take you into the authorities and let them deal with you, and you got to be processed through the system. While Diana, Wonder Woman here, who has nothing but respect for the law that she grew up understanding 3,000 years ago, and feels that is, she has to follow that to the letter of the law. So much so that clearly these two end up becoming at loggerheads, and we get a fight.
Well, I think there's something deeper going on here. You have Batman, who represents this idea of it's never okay to murder, and then you have Wonder Woman, who represents this idea of there is a time when an eye for an eye or revenge is acceptable. Now, she doesn't outright say that.
Yeah,
it's implied. And the out that they give Wonder Woman, because this could have been written written in a way where Wonder Woman was, from a more feminist point of view of, it's never okay. It's never okay to do what they did to women, and clearly men deserve that. And they went out of the way to not give her that perspective. They sort of took the I guess the easier route of, well, he's just obeying this ancient law, because whenever they went to her for a perspective, it's like, it doesn't matter what I think. All that matters is the law.
That's right.
But I do feel like underneath it all, the subtext is the argument of when is an eye for an eye okay? And surely when you drug a woman and force her into prostitution, that is okay to go after those people because they are purely evil. And Batman says, no, Batman's coming from this point of view of, it's never okay to murder. An eye for an eye is never okay. We are not living in biblical times. And I thought that was the most interesting part of the story. I almost thought that they had given Wonder Woman that perspective. But I guess, because then I guess you're starting to get into questions of what is the nature of a hero. Is the hero somebody who, like Batman, who upholds the law? The law doesn't always work for everybody.
Yeah.
But without it, there's anarchy. Is he the hero, or is the hero somebody who punishes bad people? I'm going to invoke the name of a character who, when a street level starts, is just mad about it. And that's the Punisher. And why does everyone get off on the Punisher? Because, the Punisher takes the law into his own hands and just straight up fucking murders people.
He deals justice.
Is it justice though? That's the question. Can murder be justice?
Mm-hmm.
If you're of the Batman perspective, the answer is no.
Yeah.
If you're coming from this other perspective, then the answer is yes. And I thought that subtextual debate is probably the best part of the book. If you're not into that idea and sort of exploring it and thinking about it, there isn't much left of the book to really discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. I mean, because that's pretty much all this is. You have two friends, but what makes it just a tad bit more interesting is that you have two friends who have fought side by side in battles. They are now, even though they are both bound by law, they feel that they have to respect the law that they know, even though both is almost right. I mean, you look at Wonder Woman and you think to yourself, well, she's hiding a convicted killer. Well, not convicted, but she's hiding a killer that we know. We watched her kill a guy at the beginning of the book. Is she in the wrong for protecting this person? Ronnie, would you say she is because she's protecting this person? What do you think of that, man? Do you think that she was right in what she did, or should she have just said, okay, look, I'm turning it over to you?
It's really hard because she's following what she believes. You know what I mean? And to both Batman and Wonder Woman, it's a black and white issue.
Mm-hmm.
It is no, it's wrong. It is no, I have to protect her because she asked and she invoked this sacred whatever on me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a black and white issue for both of them and what they believe. So it's really hard. The thing that kept running through my head, and I know this is a stretch, but it related it back to me. It's Matthew 10:37,
mm-hmm.
and it said, "If anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy." And that's basically saying if you are not willing to, Jesus is saying, if you're not willing to give up your life to follow me, then you're really not wanting to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's a bit of a stretch in some people's minds. It's a different thing. Absolutely, it's comic book versus scripture. But it was one of those things where Batman was asking her to give up something she believed. And thank God, it goes back to my faith note that I don't think any of my friends or family or anybody like that would ask me to give up what I believe to be their friend.
Yeah.
But I would have to stand by what I believe. And no, I'm not going to deny what I believe just to say that, you're my friend.
So let's take that a step further. What if what you believe, and I'm not challenging you directly, Ronnie. Please don't.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Please don't take this as I'm challenging your faith or anything else. So
absolutely not. No. Yeah.
But what if what you believe is wrong? What if what you believe really has no place in a modern society? What if what you believe is at odds with
what the law is?
Yeah, with what the modern law is, with what I mean. That's the funny thing about it. I mean, let's look at, without going too much off on a tangent, let's look at people who are here who are Muslims, who follow traditions and follow a faith and follow laws that don't necessarily jive with modern America. Let's just take something as simple simple as wearing the hijab, and this was in the news. You had the woman who wanted to wear the face veil, in her license picture, and you can't. Now that doesn't rise to the level of murdering folk, but but here you have someone who is enacting her right, her religious right, her First Amendment right to, I don't know if it's a First Amendment, but one of her First Amendment rights. Sorry,
what is happening?
Not a constitutional scholar, everyone. But her right to practice religious freedom, which is at odds with the society's modern law, which says you can't cover your face in a night picture.
Right, and that's exactly where my thought went to after I started. Mainly because there are some things that jive with with modern day law, and then there's some things that absolutely do not. And murder is one of them. But I put myself in her position. She believes strongly about this, and what would happen if something I believe didn't jive, and would I give up those beliefs? And I guess I went too deep, to be honest with you, but I just couldn't help it. This was kind of a deep subject, for this book and for a comic book. But I started thinking about the way I believe in everything else. There's no way that in my beliefs that it would ask me to harbinger, give sanctuary to a known murderer or anything like that.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of essentially the central debate of injustice.
Yeah.
You have Batman, who again is never kill. Yes, we suffer at the hands of our enemies because we grant them mercy. And then you have Superman, who throws a big giant tantrum and says, just straight up murders the Joker because how many more people have to suffer because we've granted him mercy.
Right.
And that just leads to the two factions facing off against each other. But again, it's that same concept of what part does mercy and forgiveness play in a modern society?
Right.
And I think that's what the book is asking.
It's a tough subject, to be honest with you, because would I want somebody to give me mercy if I exacted my revenge on somebody who did who killed my sister? Absolutely. I don't know. Yeah, I would want that.
I'll tell you the subject that comes up a
would
lot.
I expect it?
Because everybody I work with, all these. Okay, I'm gonna be good here, and I'm gonna refrain from the way I was about to say that. But we have all these people, who are claiming to be good folk.
Yeah.
Who also think that we'd murder all the inmates and just treat them horribly. And people ask me all the time, how do you do what you do? How do you practice being a licensed clinical social worker with, as they've been called by those around me, the dregs of society? And it's because I believe in my core that even the worst amongst us deserve to be treated humanely. Everyone deserves a voice, and everyone, including our worst enemies, deserve protection on some level.
So, with that being said, would you identify more with what Wonder Woman is trying to do or with what Batman's trying to do? Because I think clearly Wonder Woman is trying to give this woman the opportunity to say her piece. And Batman is rushing right into it with the Batarang out.
As Batman does.
Batman does, ready to make sure that she goes down. What do you think, Mark?
Well, there's no such thing as the. Oh, I should say there's no such thing, but it's a rare thing indeed for the justifiable homicide.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, just because your sister was mistreated doesn't give you the right to murder them.
And this is clearly what she did. What Danielle did was premeditated.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
No, I'm on Batman's side on it.
Are you?
I honestly think that, like I said, Wonder Woman's point of view in this is not the strongest point of view. I'm obeying an ancient law. Okay, but you're also I don't know if in this one, I think it's established as the UN ambassador
of Themyscira.
Themyscira, yeah. It's not like you're just of this one world. You are of the modern world too. You have made an active choice, Wonder Woman, to play an active role in the modern world. You don't get to pick and choose which laws you're going to obey and which you're going to forget about.
Diplomatic immunity.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Good old Lethal Weapon. Okay, now how about, I'm going to throw an analogy out there. You guys tell me if I'm right or wrong, but how about Batman, I mentioned this earlier, Batman representing the law of now versus the law of old, which was represented by Wonder Woman. Would you say that is a correct analogy? analogy, Ronnie Adams? Is that something that you could kind of see in this book?
Yeah, because Batman has no time for what was.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't jive. Like we said, that doesn't jive with modern day. It doesn't matter what she's invoked or who, or what's going on with her. She killed somebody.
Yeah.
So she needs to be brought to justice. And so it's really, oh man, it's tough because he's also not only dealing with that, and he's dealing with one of his best friends, and somebody who doesn't, who wasn't raised in the world of the laws that he follows and he holds dear. She was raised in a completely different world, but she is familiar with the laws that he does hold dear.
Yeah.
So where do you say, okay, it's all right just this one time, or do you stick to your guns? Just because she's your friend doesn't mean that she should get a pass.
Hey, let me point to, and I think another example of a character who's acting in what he believes is the absolute right, is the absolute truth, but so out of whack with the rest of the world that causes a giant conflict. Ronan the Accuser and the Zandarian.
Yeah.
Ronan, I mean, if you look at Ronan, however you thought the character was portrayed in the movie, aside, in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, Ronan absolutely believes he's in the right.
Mm-hmm.
He's not out to conquer the world. He's not out to. He's saying that his first lines of dialogue in that movie are, I practice the ancient laws and traditions of our people, and that makes me an outcast.
Yeah. It struck me that you could see what Greg Rucka was kind of going with here, clearly with the, our laws now versus eye for an eye, but you could almost take it as, Batman represented that law of now, and Wonder Woman representing that law of then, the eye for an eye, the justice that a lot of people crave, and that we've, our society, we can say we've taken leaps and bounds, but we're not too far removed from eye for an eye. And Batman was completely overpowered by Wonder Woman, which you could almost, here, I'm going to stretch it and say that he's making a comment here about how, he can go up against Wonder Woman all day long, but until he submits and to understanding that he is a servant to that eye for an eye, or at least the base of that eye for an eye. So what she refused, but regardless, he had to submit to that at one point. I don't know if he's making a social commentary here. I know I'm probably stretching it, like I said, but if she represented that, that's an awful powerful thing to try and overcome.
No, I don't think he was giving away his position. I think in that sense, it was merely an outwitting of Wonder Woman.
Okay.
This isn't Superman. Superman has a million ways he can be, he put on kryptonite gloves and punch him in the face, that sort of thing. We've seen Superman and Batman go at it. We've seen Batman, Superman, a number of different times, a number of different ways. Wonder Woman doesn't have those weaknesses. Last time I checked, she's, you just have to be more powerful and Batman is nowhere near that. And I think, and Batman's like, well, I'm not going to continue to run my head straight into a brick wall. I have to come up with something else.
And it didn't work. It didn't work, though.
Right.
Because, she's like, well, hey, I can go ahead and refuse you. So Wonder Woman pretty much had the Batman beat here.
Mm.
The only thing that he could probably hope for was that, some sentiment that she wasn't really aggressing anyway. She was just trying to keep Batman away from Danielle.
Can I just say that I thought killing Danielle at the end of that book, like at that point, I feel like the writers had just run out of stuff to say and to do. It was like it was almost as like you write a short story and you don't know how to end it, so you just start killing off characters.
Oh man, I wondered about that too. Honestly, because it felt like, okay, this is kind of out of left field, but when she was clearly troubled.
You kind of painted yourself into a wall with that character, though.
You did.
So that story could have gone on for a little while, where Wonder Woman backs Batman off. Batman tries to submit to Hiketeia, and she refuses him, and he's like, "I'm gonna be back. This isn't over." And instead of killing Danielle at that point, there could have been more of Danielle like, "Oh, I've caused too much trouble." Maybe she tries to kill herself, and Wonder Woman stops her. That sort of thing. And it's like, it's like this, and maybe have that conversation of like, you offered yourself to me, and this is what you do. You try to, this is what you do with my kindness. But there's none of that. She just fucking throws herself off the balcony, and then we're done. It's like, oh, all right.
Well, I could see where you could be a little bit let down from that because, and honestly, we don't know what they were dealing with in 2002. They're handing this guy, Greg Rucka, the reins, or at least giving him the opportunity to tell a Wonder Woman story. I'm sure that the amount of, when it comes to pages and page count, there was probably not enough there. They probably said, okay, you only got a certain amount of pages. So I agree with you though, Mark. It could have went on for a little bit longer. I assume that this wasn't put out in issue format, at least as far as I understand. I think this was all one big story, one shot.
Joke.
Yeah.
It's like a Killing Joke, and it's about as long.
I can tell you that I did pick up on some visual cues, and I think I told you guys in the messenger, but I try to slow myself down. And the good thing about reading a comic twice, which I rarely do, okay? I'm putting that out there. It's very rare that I'll go back and read a comic 2 times within a short amount of time. Now, I might go back and revisit something a year on down the road, but it's very rare in that, and it's only a few select stories. But I had the opportunity to watch or read this again. One of the parallels that I drew was between the Furies, these vampire snake-haired women that were following and tormenting Diana by telling her, okay, be ready because Hiketeia is never about the supplicant, the person that is initiating it. It's all about the person who is following the law or giving the protection. So anyway, at the end of the book, when Danielle falls to her death and she's laying there, I noticed that they made a direct point to put blood around her mouth. And I was like, anytime you saw the Furies, they had blood-soaked lips or a blood-soaked mouth. Then it occurred to me, well, she's clearly a representation of what a Fury is throughout this whole story. She is vengeance. She is a person that goes and, she murders those guys in a fit of a premeditated rage, premeditated murder. But she's carrying out an eye for an eye, which is almost exactly what the Furies do, as we're told in the beginning about how the one guy, refused. Well, I didn't say he refused. He didn't refuse Hiketeia, but he abused the ritual by killing the one guy he was sworn to protect. So I thought that was a neat little parallel that Rucka put in there. I think that she would definitely represent a Fury. Ronnie, am I off here?
No, not at all.
Okay.
That's really interesting that you said that, because I didn't even think of that. But it's so true.
Visual cues. When it comes to comics, some guys are really good at writing stuff, and Killing Joke is a perfect example. We've discussed that, and I've referenced that many a time on here about how awesome it was to go back and revisit that and look at everything, and then especially at the end. This is another example. Greg Rucka did a great job here of weaving the story and then making sure that what we were looking at, maybe throwing in some subtle cues every once in a while to kind of tie it back into what he wants, and also get you thinking. This is a book that kind of gets you thinking and about what goes on in our real world here. Okay, so Mark, you enjoyed the book, you said, right? I mean, is this something you'd recommend, or how's this go down amongst the tally of stuff that we've read?
I thought it was fine. I think if somebody asked me about a Wonder Woman story, I would tell them about it. I think my one thing from giving it like a high recommendation is just the simple length of the book. At least Killing Joke, for as short as that is, at least felt like there was a satisfying ending. This less a satisfying ending.
Do you have do you have the book in front of you?
I do not.
Okay. I'm trying to think. I know the page count of the thing I was looking at was over like 100 pages, but I assume it was probably a little bit short of that. However, when we say the length of the book, I mean, what do you think, Mark, when it comes to the words? I mean, there were some pages that had nothing.
Right.
Do you like that, or would you rather there be more exposition or discussion?
I'm fine with just some pages just having art. I wanted more story. I wanted more exploration of the Batman Wonder Woman conflict, and I just felt it ended too abruptly. I felt like we built up, and then instead of there being a denouement, it falls off the fucking cliff.
Well, yeah. For me personally, I'll go ahead and give my final thoughts. Ronnie, you go ahead and hop in here once I'm done. Me personally, I enjoyed it. I love a story that has the balls to tell it through just pictures sometimes. A lot of what you saw and what you felt with this book, you could just do it by looking at what was going on in the panels. And that's cool. I enjoy that type of storytelling. Plus, you can get too wordy sometimes. And I was really worried. I was like, man, this is going to be a tough one to get through. It's going to take me a while, but it wasn't bad. There wasn't a whole lot of exposition. This was a one-shot story where you didn't have to worry really about about you especially didn't have to worry a whole lot about who Danielle is. She never appeared before, and she'll never appear again. The crux of this story, the crux of this story is gone by the end of the issue. You may have to know a little bit about Batman and what he represents, and a little bit about Wonder Woman as well. But it's not going to be something that you're critically needing in order to enjoy the story. They do a good job of explaining what the hell Hiketeia is at the beginning of it, which thank you. I appreciate that. That's the whole point of the book. So for me, it's a thumbs up. It's probably one of the better, more, I would say, cerebral issues that I've read in a while, where it gets you thinking about stuff goes on and makes you go, okay, well, there's probably a lot more hidden stuff in here. And for Greg Rucka's first shot on Wonder Woman, I've heard the name a lot, but for his first shot on Wonder Woman, I think, giving him the title was probably a good move, because he wrote a pretty good story, in my opinion, here. All right, Ronnie, your final thoughts.
No, it was definitely one of those ones that got me thinking. Obviously, as you all can tell, I was thinking too much and too deep into it. I think I enjoyed it. I mean, I think I didn't really hate the ending or anything like that. It was just, to go along with you all, I found it a little more predictable of an ending.
Okay.
Because there's only one way out. She feels like there's only one way out. Only one way to save Wonder Woman and save Wonder Woman and Batman's relationship. She knows they're friends, and she doesn't want this, for him. So boom, she believes Wonder Woman of her duty and kills herself. Yeah. So, I hate to say I saw it coming, but I saw it coming.
Okay.
Not reading a ton of Wonder Woman in my life, this was actually a really good book, good length, a chill book to, as far as, its length, and it's not very chill with content. Yeah. But it was good with, getting me, into the Wonder Woman world, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. Her sense of duty, her sense of
who she is and what she believes and what she thinks is right.
Mark, just real quick, I mean, is this clearly one of the better Wonder Woman stories you've read?
It was the only Wonder Woman.
I knew the answer.
So, yes.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Let's go ahead. Unless you guys have any other burning desires, we'll go ahead and get into plugs. And as we all know, mark the schedule.
All right. Tomorrow night on Damn You Hollywood, if you're listening to this on the network, we'll be reviewing Wonder Woman proper from the DC Cinematic Universe, DC Extended Universe, whatever you like. On the Metal Hammer of Doom, we'll be reviewing the new Dream Evil, which, if you haven't listened to the last Dream Evil albums, go listen to them. They're fucking hilarious. The Book of Heavy Metal is great, but prior to that, I can't remember the name of the album now, but there's a song on there called Made of Metal, and it always makes me laugh because there's a part where it's like, where the guy just belts out, I am so metal, and he's like, so is my wife, and then this woman jumps in and she goes, I am wife, shut up!
What?
I can't remember if I heard of these guys. Have we talked about these dudes before on there?
I may have. I mean, Dream Evil are like the cheesiest fucking progressive metal band you'll ever hear in your life. Like,
oh wow!
Like we talked about with Dragon Force, how like Dragon Force is just a master of cheese.
Oh yeah.
Dream Evil is all the cheese of Dragon Force and none of the musicianship.
This will be fun.
I was going to say they're bad musicians, but they're not doing the.
Oh, no wheedly.
There's no wheedly whack.
Can I just say that was my favorite part of that whole podcast?
when he busts out into some crisscross?
Wheedly, yeah.
Oh,
well,
okay. Wheedly. I got you.
And then the crisscross came, and then I was like, well, I got to turn this off. But no, I'm kidding. But it was hilarious. I loved it.
So go check out the last two Dream Evil albums, and then we'll be doing a review of the latest Dream Evil album, which is called 6, on the Metal Hammer of Doom. On Thursday, I'm not making any promise at this point, but on Thursday on the schedule is On Trial, Superman Return. And that's all for this week. Last week was all Pirates Week all the time. We looked at Nightcrawler on source material. Tuesday, we reviewed Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, which was basically a soft reboot of the first movie. You can hear more about that on the podcast. Wednesday, everyone just got fucked by an anchor.
This is gonna be great.
You're a bunch of that is
wow.
That is the greatest song ever.
It is.
Dude, fucked by an anchor, and there's nothing better. What I'm talking about there is Ailstorm, No Grave But the Sea. It's a great album. We covered it on the Metal Hammer of Doom. Go check it out. A fun time was had by all. Jesse Starcher and Robert Cooper always bring the funny. On Thursday, Ronnie Adams joined me on the TV party tonight. Discussed Black Sail season 1, and then Ronnie Adams and Jesse Starcher and a cast of thousands did Screaming Boy podcast, and they looked at Pirates in the Movie, Pirates of Penzance, Treasure Island, Muppet Treasure Island, all the greats. All right, and with that said, I thank you, gentlemen. I am bowing out.
Later, sir. Thanks for joining us, man. Hope you get some rest there, homie.
Absolutely.
All right, Ronnie Adams, what you got to plug, sir?
Screaming Boy podcast. You can still check us out on YouTube. As of right now, I am computerless, so I can't really edit, record, things like that. But that will soon change. It's killing me right now not to be able to do that stuff. We are not episodeless as we speak, but we are kind of in hiatus as far as a little bit of vacation time, I guess. We all need it, but we're still active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. We're still active in the podcast world as correspondents on, of course, Source Material, TV Party Tonight, and wonderful shows like that.
All right. Did you give us your Twitter?
At Screaming Boy PR. You can look up Screaming Boy Podcast on Facebook, and it's Screaming Boy PR. I think it's still Screaming Boy PR on Instagram, but either way, Screaming Boy, and then screamingboy.com. All
right, very good, very good. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, I think most of my plugs were done between these two. I think there isn't a whole lot. There is a whole lot coming up for Source Material. You're listening to this on the 5th of June. June we got a lot of fun stuff coming up here. I think at some point we're going to be discussing Flashpoint, or DC's Flashpoint. That's right. We're also going to be discussing IDW's Revolution, Poison Ivy, Cycle of Life and Death. So that's what's coming up this June. We're going to have an episode. At least we're intending on having an episode every Monday this June. So it'll be a lot of fun. I should be at some point, if you guys want to check it out, I should be on the Kapow, the Pop Cultured Podcast. Just recorded there this past Friday. I took the boys on a written test. I said it's almost time for summer. However, you can't get there unless you take your test and pass it on to the person to your left and have them grade it. And we did the comic book intelligent quotient from May of 1992 Wizard magazine. And that was a lot of fun, a lot of discussion there to be had. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have the opportunity to check it out. Other than that, I think that is about it. I don't have really much else to go. Give that Rattlich and Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. We're on Stitcher, we're on iTunes, we're on TuneIn Radio, we're on Blog Talk Radio. We're also on Spreaker.com. If you want to check us out there, just type in Rattlich, Radulich, up there in the search bar. Don't forget also, throw some money to our patriarch, not my patriarch, our patriarch, by maybe checking out a snazzy shirt. Fight Rattlich Fight. Go to represent.com/fight Rattlich Fight. I mess it up every time.
Fight Rattlich. Oh, wow.
Fragile, friggin' frack.
Fight Rattlich Fight.
That's right. You represent.com, Fight Rattlich Fight. Yeah, like I said, just go there, type in Rattlich. You're going to find it. Yeah, nice shirt, snazzy. And if you purchase one, a portion of those proceeds go to help out our patriarch in his battle with cancer. So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, have